Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Deciding to Soar, Living Life Your Own Way. My name is SharRon Jamison, and I am a corporate leader, a life strategist, a minister, and a mom. And if this is your first time listening to the podcast, welcome. I am so grateful that you are here. This podcast is an unedited, unscripted space where I share what I'm learning in my own life, as well as what I'm learning from working with so many leaders, entrepreneurs, visionaries, healers, and brave souls, people just like you. And today I am so excited about answering a question that I have received from so many people. And that question is, what is the biggest thing that stands between people and their next season? Another way to ask that question is, what is the biggest impediment that prevents people from moving forward in their life, or what prevents people from moving into a new season, taking a new adventure, being the person who they want to be? Or maybe it's what prevents a person from having a deeper level of intimacy with themselves or with others. That's the big question today. And that question is such a relevant question because I know that so many of us are in stages in our lives where we want more. We want more time. We want more love. We want more relaxation. We want more peace. Some of us want more money. There's some place where we want more. And so I wanted to share three, I think, intentional perspectives about what is the biggest block. Because to me, the biggest block that prevents people from moving forward is permission. Permission. Now, I know sometimes people would think, well, how is that a big impediment? Well, because throughout our lives, we have been conditioned to ask other people for permission, or we have been conditioned to allow people to give us permission. But how many times have we given ourselves permission to say, I am moving forward. I am intentionally making a choice. So these are three reflections around permission that I want you to consider in your own life. The first permission I think we need to give ourselves is the permission to ask. Permission to ask. And permission to ask often begins with two simple words. What if? What if I started a new job? What if I said no? What if I changed careers? What if I apologized? What if I was in a relationship a different way? What if I traveled? What if, right? And what if is so important because when we give ourselves permission to ask questions and to be curious and to wonder and to admit that something no longer fits us, we give ourselves permission to imagine a different possibility and to create a different reality. And I think sometimes we don't want to give ourselves permission because we feel that questions mean that we don't trust, or questions mean that we don't believe. Our questions mean that we don't have faith. But it's really important to remember that questions often mean that you are growing. And when we are growing, we are becoming more curious. We are becoming more thoughtful. We are becoming more willing to challenge our biases, our status quo, our beliefs, our narratives, our inherited scripts, our passed down narratives. We are willing to do that when we ask ourselves, what if? I remember in my early 20s, I had a mentor who told me that every new chapter in our lives begins with a question. Just think about that. Every new chapter in our lives begins with a new question. So ask yourself questions. Allow yourself to say what if, and to make sure you say what if and ask yourself what if about every aspect of your life. Nothing should be off limits when you are thinking, how can I live more authentically, more freely, with more peace, more joy? How can I architect a different paradigm, a different pattern, a different system, different habits to support me? So the first question or the first reflection is, how can I give myself permission to ask? The second reflection is, how can I give myself permission to explore? Exploration. And exploration is really important because life is a big experiment. None of us come to this stage in life knowing all the answers. And we have to experiment so we can learn ourselves, we can learn our limits, we can learn our needs and wants. And experimenting is what brings clarity. When we try something and we don't get the outcome that we want, we get the lesson that we need. And the lesson that we need is the data that leads us into a new direction. And so I want you to think about curiosity being a source of information. I want you to think that clues help you know where your interests lie. And so we want to think about, how can we experiment just little by little so we can better understand ourselves, how we are wired, what we need. Maybe that exploration can look like taking a class, or it could look like volunteering to see if you're interested deeply in a different career. Maybe it is starting a side business, starting small until you really are clear that it's your aspect of entrepreneurship that you're most interested in. How about having a conversation? How about shadowing someone on a job, or shadowing someone in a different type of setting? How about being an apprentice? What about just reading a book and being able to vicariously experiment through the events of others? How about attending a conference where you can not only learn about a subject, but you can also have some sense of the energy around a certain community? Exploration, because life is a big experiment. You figure it out one experience at a time. And when we give ourselves permission to explore, we will realize we can make steps forward. And making steps forward lets us know, should we continue to pursue something that grabs our interest, or should we stop and pause because it's something we don't want? But the blessing of it is, when you are learning and experimenting and exploring, you don't have to panic if something does not tickle your fancy. So instead of panicking, you just pivot and you keep turning toward what gives you joy. It's like moving a dial around. You keep adjusting until you find what feels right to your spirit, what aligns with your soul, and what feels good, not only in your mind, but also in your body. Because remember, our bodies will sense when we are in the right place. And here's a quote I just want to share with you. Someone shared it with me years ago, and they said that exploration is important because clarity comes because you moved, not before you move. So clarity comes because you move, or as you are moving toward what you want to do, not before. And so we got to remember that the experimenting, the exploration is the action that will help us gain the information and the clarity we need to move forward. The third reflection around permission, after we ask, after we explore, the third reflection is we need to give ourselves permission to begin. We need to give ourselves permission to begin a new job, to begin a new perspective, to begin a new discovery, to begin a new relationship, whatever the beginning a new fill in the blank. And this is why our courage grows and our confidence grows in action when we are doing something. So when we are in action, we are building muscles, we are building memory, we are building meaning, and just by giving ourselves one small yes helps us to take another yes, or maybe one small no helps us to say another no. And we can yes and no our way forward so we can see what works for us in this new season or in this age. And also, we talk about permission. We have to remember that if we look at our lives deeply, just saying yes to something helped us move forward. Even if we did it messy, even if we did not do it to a standard we had hoped, it helped us move forward. And when you look back on your life and all of the times you moved forward, even when you were scared, you can see that you have your own testimonies or your own track record to let you know that giving yourself permission is what opened the door. Maybe it opened the door to a new job, a new adventure, a new way of thinking, a new pattern, a new habit, a new investment. It is the taking action, the beginning anew is what helped you move forward. And so today I want you to kind of sit with those three different types of permissions that we need to give to ourselves. Again, it is the permission to ask a question. Just by asking what if will open us up to possibilities. The permission to explore so we can experiment. Remember, if we don't get the outcome that we want, we will get the lesson that we need. And then permission to begin. That means to take action so we can build some confidence and competence and clarity and some self-trust by moving forward, knowing that every time we take action, we're going to learn a little bit more about us so that we can lead the way. So in closing, I want you to really think about what permissions have you been withholding from yourself? And I don't want you to answer quickly. I want you just to journal about it, pray about it. During the week, ask yourself, where do I need to give myself more permission? Is it around finances, emotions, friendships, lovers, religion, politics? Where do you need to give yourself more permission? Because your answer may reveal far more than your next decision. It may reveal your next chapter or your next season that your soul is yearning to move into. So I want to leave this closing quote with you because it really resonated with me maybe a couple of years ago. And it says, don't wait for permission from the world. Start by giving yourself permission to become what you want to be. I will say that again. Don't wait for permission from the world. Start by giving yourself permission to become what you want to be. So this episode, please re-listen to it and share it with someone that you feel might need to give themselves more permission to move in a direction of their heart. And if you're listening on the podcast, please leave a review on whatever podcast platform that you're listening to the podcast to. And if you're listening to me on YouTube, thank you very much. Please subscribe. And if you have questions, just drop your questions in the comments on YouTube, and I will be more than happy. I will really be excited to answer your questions and your concerns to the best of my ability. So again, give yourself permission. And I'm going to ask you to please think about your life, because you only get one opportunity to create the life that you desire, to live the life you desire. So think about, how can you give yourself permission to be who you are called to be? Remember, you can read more about this topic on my blog at SharRonJamison.com. You can read more about it on Substack. I'm there. Or you can also join my newsletter that I send out weekly, where you can get some information about different aspects of what I share with my community that's more intimate and more practical, and hopefully something that supports your life journey. And I will have all of those links down below. So I want to leave you with this benediction, because I love to leave you with something that you can reflect on throughout the week. And it reads as follows: may you have the courage to ask. May you give yourself the freedom to explore. May you have the faith to begin. And may you discover that permission is what opens the door, so that you can keep growing, keep trusting, and keep becoming what your Creator has created you to be. Again, thanks so much for being here with me. Please take advantage of all the links below. And as I say every week, remember, you can dare to soar higher, because the best is still yet to come. Blessings.